Okay, so today is Wednesday, November 11th. The time now is 2:02, and I'm here with Maribel Gonzalez,
Hello.
owner and manager of the South of France. And so, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you again.
Thank you. Hi, how are you? It's my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
I'm doing well. So before we start, I'd just like to ask you to state and spell your name so that we have that for the record.
Of course, Maribel Gonzalez, Maribelgonzalez.
Perfect. And so, I guess the best way to start is, how are you doing? Considering the last time that we talked, um, so much has happened. So many months have passed. So how are you doing? What new has happened for you?
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a little bit more of the same, unfortunately. We're still hanging in there, however, still grateful that some months have passed and we're still here, though very trepidatiously because we're still, not knowing if we're going to be here from one month to the next because the situation is still very precarious, very delicate, very doubtful, and we're still fighting. We're doing the best to stay open, to keep staff employed, and it's definitely a struggle. The biggest problem is the whole, up and down as to, some days are good, some days are bad, and without a steady flow, you can't survive that way.
And so you mentioned that there hasn't been a steady flow. Could you just like talk a little bit more about that? Uh, Especially considering that there has been so many new additions to uh the rules for COVID has sort of let up a little bit. So how has that been?
Well, they've let up and not let up. Maybe for the public, they've let up, but for businesses, they continue to be rather stringent. You have to be very aware with the fact that now they've added the 25% indoor seating. It has helped a little bit, but you still have to be extremely vigilant and, taking temperature, having everyone stand in the front, not enter the premises until their temperature has been taken, the documents have been filled as like their name, their email, contact information, phone number, etc. And then spacing the 6 feet between tables and everything. So the up and down meaning that the weather has changed. The 25% has been now included, but it's not a steady stream of income to be able to go back to all the activities that we used to do. So the income is still very doubtful. You don't know how you're going to do from one day to the next, and you can move forward to continue to plan and have your normal activities like you used to.
And could you just talk a little bit about those activities that you used to do? I know that the South of France is like really known for building community through their like programming. And uh how have you been able to find a new way to implement programming considering that you have, all of these restrictions?
Well, we've only been able to reinstate our karaoke, and even that partially. We resumed our karaoke Wednesdays and Saturdays from 7 to 11 p.m. Those are new hours for us. We used to do it from 9 to 1:30 and 10 to 2 a.m. But with the restrictions of having to close the business by 12 midnight or 12:30 if you still have a dining patron. But however, we've had to change the hours and we've reinstated that, but not to full capacity again, because you can only do 25%, and that's only limiting to, five, six tables at a time. And we haven't been able to resume our other activities, such as open mic spoken word. We haven't been able to resume comedy. We haven't been able to open our doors for all the community events to hold their meetings and their monthly events at our place. We've lost all our catering jobs. And this year I've lost about an average of 10 catering jobs, which was, equivalent to over $40,000 in lost revenue. And, those things are very impactful when you still have all the ongoing expenses. You still have all these operating costs. And even now, they've increased because of the outdoor dining. Many business insurances have now added a premium because, in order to cover outdoor dining. So I know my insurance has gone up almost $3,000 a year because of the outdoor dining. So these are the inconveniences, if you will, in trying to run the business that you're still not able to come back to.
And I have to thank you for like putting numbers to like a lot of the stuff that's going on, because when if you're a customer, you kind of just walk into the restaurant and you just order your meal and then you go, but you don't really know much about the logistics and the things that are going on behind the scenes. To the catering part, have you even had like sort of like maybe a bigger orders where you might need to make like maybe 10 or so meals? And how has it been working with like the whole like individual packaging and things like that?
Extremely stressful because it has added on more expenses. You have to buy more packaging items. They also have to be, held accountable to new guidelines. You have to purchase more because more frequently, rather, in lesser numbers, because you don't know how much business you're going to have. So, you don't want to buy in large numbers to fulfill the capacity that you did before, because you don't know if you're going to have business, and then you're going to be left with inventory that you spent money on that you can't afford, that you're not going to be using. So, these are all the things that one has to constantly be thinking about in this whole reinventing of how you operate under
Right.
this pandemic.
And so when we think about like buying groceries and buying things for inventory, it generally for restaurants, it's like if you buy more, you get more of a discount, right? So you're kind
Right.
of getting like a little bit more bang for your buck. So like I'm assuming that with the change of like how you're ordering things, like that's definitely taking a hit with like the money that you could be saving.
Taking a hit because you have to make more trips, you're spending more on gas, you have to buy less because you have, want to keep everything fresh, and so you can't buy in the same volume. So in actuality, it's costing more money because, like you mentioned, when you buy in bulk, you're able to save. But when you have to buy in smaller amounts in order to keep everything current and fresh, then it's more costly, and it's more cumbersome in having to take more time to make more trips and etc. So I used to buy once or twice a week, and now I have to do like 3 or 4 times a week in lesser amounts, but more spending more money in order to keep everything. If I have business that I know I'm going to have 30 customers that day, as opposed to 100 that I may normally have, then I can't buy for 100 because I'll have wastage.
Right. And has any of like the companies that have been like selling groceries and stuff have tried to like, meet you halfway, give you some sort of like deal? How have they been trying to work with you on these type of things?
No. In plain language, no. I mean, these big stockpile operations, they have their own considerations and quotas to meet, and they will put things on special, but that's just like they used to. But there is no COVID deduction or discount or anything like that. So that hasn't happened yet that I've seen, actually.
And I remember when we were talking about preparing things for inventory before, you said that you had to go to a whole bunch of different places. You had to like get up early, do all these things just to get food, like the things that you needed for like a day. Has has it become easier? Like, have you been able to have access to like more sellers now that stuff is sort of
No, actually, on the contrary, it's become much harder because things like, even bags and plastic gloves and masks, which, you should be able to provide to your customers. If you want them to be a patron, sometimes they leave it in their car or they've lost it or whatever it is. So aside from hand sanitizer and masks, you have to provide that. So they often run out. And so, because everyone is clamoring for the same thing, you have to go to several different locations or find sources or spend even more money to order it online and wait longer for its arrival. So it's actually become more difficult.
and also what I wanted to know was you know, in New York we have the plastic bag ban, and now everything has to be reusable or paper. Has that also taken a hit on you? I know that they had a grace period before, and I know that some places had the plastic bags, but now it's very much like no plastic bags.
Right. That's also been an issue because you have to buy more brown paper bag paper products. And so, they've come up in price. They're also not always available. You have to buy what you could put, in one plastic bag. Now you have to buy several different size bags to accommodate all the different items so that, again, there's no, wastage. So all these things have changed, and surely it's the best thing to keep everyone safe, but it's become more cumbersome on the business because of the travel, the availability, the increase in cost, the changes is part of the constant reinventing of oneself in this industry nowadays.
Right. And also with all of, and you are very much like a small business, you know, very community focused. And so when it comes to this type of increase in costs, like how does that we're talking about all of the different ways that it takes a toll and like its specifics, but overall, how would you like describe, you know, all of these restrictions and all of these costs and you know a whole new list of things to do for you as a small business owner and like for your team?
Well, if I had to say one word, it's very uncertain. It's very uncertain. You have to do with what you can. You're constantly worried if not only are you going to be able to stay open, but are you going to be able to continue to employ your people? What has happened now, different than from the last time that we spoke. It's just I think we spoke sometime in early the beginning of summer or so on. Is
Right.
that now the weather is changing, so we don't have the flexibility with the outdoor seating that we did because we have again additional expenses with regards to having to provide outdoor heating and so on. So even though we may have already used our tents that we did and umbrellas and so on, now you have to have it as enclosed as possible. You have to provide heating, and there's no allowances from the city for another go around, if you will, for a stimulus or anything for small businesses to make us compensate for the lack of increased seating indoors. So, this it's a lot of uncertainty with are you going to still be able to keep employees that were furloughed that you brought back because business increased in the summer because you had more seating available outdoors, and now you find yourself with the weather changing, uh, not the availability of heaters because now they're also very scarce, and for propane heating, which is only allowed on the sidewalks, you also have to have an inspection from the fire department and a permit, and and then are you able to still continue to have these employees working for you? So
And
it's
just to clarify, to get a permit to have the propane heating, would that cost money as well?
No, you have to contact them and wait for an appointment. But you know, these heaters are not inexpensive, and unfortunately, just like in anything else, there's a lot of price gouging going on. So you know, something that costs maybe $150 is now $300. Not to mention that it's not available. You know, everyone is going on Amazon and so on, and the Home Depots of the world and the Lowe's, etc. And they're usually out of stock. And if you didn't, you know, pre-plan for it, and even if you try to plan for it, if you don't have the means with the budget, then you know you're at a loss now trying to operate at only depending on the 25% indoors.
So I want to go back to sort of like, you know, kind of where we left off with June, and that was the beginning of like phase two. You know, it was starting to open up. You could do takeaway. Um, but I want to think more about what start like sort of that transition into like outdoor dining. How was the process with that? Um, you know, I there's a restaurant like down the road, and I saw them literally have they literally makeshift an outdoor seating area. So I just want to know like what was that process like for you to prepare
Well,
it?
well, aside from it being extremely expensive, because for my cost, it literally added an approximate $15,000 cost that I didn't expect, that I had to all of a sudden find within weeks to be able to provide outdoor seating. And you know, you're clamoring to get tents, to get tables, to get chairs, to get umbrellas, and you know that was an enormous task undertaken to be able to do that. I went to literally about 5 or 6 places just looking to color coordinate umbrellas, to make them, you know, I bought 3 here, 2 there, one in Queens, I mean, you know, all over the place. And that did help temporarily. Business did go up for the months of July and August, and then you know, with the whole school and all the uncertainty, and the news media talking about the resurgence and everything. So now you have this last quarter of the year and the upcoming holidays, where again it's gone back to a lot of uncertainty. You know, not to mention that still to this day, whatever I take out has to be, you know, like you were saying, that place makeshift a whole outdoor seating. But I have to take it out. Takes about an hour and a half to set everything up, and then you have to bring everything back in towards the end of the night. So it adds about 3 hours of work to your daily schedule.
And time is money, and I would imagine that it's super hard to find like quality seating, because I've seen restaurants that have outdoor seating and it looks like they got like the same chairs like they would for school, like a school. So I would imagine finding something that's like, you know, up to your standard of making sure that people are comfortable and able to have a good dining experience must have been extremely tough.
It was extremely tough. And, you know, some people, some restaurateurs have, you know, just taken their indoor furniture and brought it out. But, you know, I knew that that would eventually present a problem when they would reinstate the indoor dining. So I said, if I use that furniture, then I'm not going to have anybody to sit, you know, to any seating for indoors, because the weather could still be nice, you know, September, October. So I was forced to buy, you know, like 40 tables and 80 chairs. And, you know, that was an unexpected cost of, you know, nearly $4,000. And you want to make it as presentable and as appealing as possible so that people can say, you know, this is a nice entity that I want to go to, that I want to support, that they can feel comfortable and safe. A problem that I ran into were, you know, the city guidelines. And at the beginning, they said, yes, you can have outdoor seating, and you can have roadway seating, what they call, which is on the street, that you can block off a certain area in front of your location. And so I went out and I bought what I thought were acceptable barricades, and you know, put signage on them That was well over $2,000. And within 2 days, an inspector came and said, well, now there are new rules, new guidelines and specifications to follow, and these are not acceptable. And so, this is the height, width, length, et cetera, of what you need to do for the outside roadway seating. And so to fulfill that, to be able to compete and to have outdoor seating, that cost an additional unexpected $4,800 just to get 12 of those barricades.
Right. And what I'm hearing from all of this is that there wasn't much communication between, the city who's creating all of these guidelines and rules and, requirements that you have to follow. Like there's no way around it.
Right.
And within the business, who needs to, you know, they need to be up to date with the
Yeah.
requirements because that's how you can sell things.
Right.
So,
That was very
would you say
difficult.
that's definitely like the case where it's like just
Yeah.
lack of communication,
Right.
very much like you don't know when a new guideline is going to come, a new requirement?
That's a big problem, right? And I understand having empathy with the city that this is all our first go around, if you will, on this, and they're doing the best that they can to help us stay in business. And they're flying by the seat of their pants, if you will, as well. However, for a small business, when you're told one thing and then a couple of days or a week later that changes, and so now that's another investment that's a big problem for us. So that whole guidelines and late notifications and so on was a big problem, because we need clear direction. We need to know where we can find that. Many times, I'm calling 311, I'm calling the mayor's office, the governor's office, I'm calling small business affairs, I'm calling consumer affairs. So I'm all over the place trying to conform, trying to find out the latest guidelines. And even, they set up this New York Restart hotline for small businesses. And often, they didn't even know themselves because they said, I'm sorry, we don't have the latest update information to give you on that yet. I often ask questions that they could not answer, and so that was extremely, extremely frustrating. So, moving forward, there has to be a more concise plan with specific non-changing guidelines that we can all get in a timely basis and depend on, and have assurance that we're not going to have an additional cost, after that, because there's going to be yet another change.
And I know that all of these, you've definitely invested so much money into these things, right? How do you think that you could even possibly use some of the stuff that you bought in the future? Like a lot of this stuff seems very situational to COVID. So I'd like to know, do you think you could like make this investment worthwhile?
Well, we're hoping that we can. Luckily, and we're very grateful, the city did extend the outdoor seating on a permanent basis, yes, year round. And, you can, if you can afford it, set it up permanently. So, particularly in our case, for the summertime, all the furniture that we bought that was more summer conducive, if you will, outdoor seating, then we'll be able to use that again starting next spring and summer.
That's great to hear. Um, and then also, it seems like this not only is the cost financial, like you're spending dollars, but you're spending a lot more time doing things like making phone calls and buying things and searching for them because you can't find them. So, how has that increase in time, like invested in the whole business, sort of been taking a toll on you? You mentioned that you had to do 3 hours of additional setup. You'd have to probably spend a day going around the town trying to get furniture and things like that. So I just want to hear a little bit more about your experience with all this added time that has been put onto your job.
Well, it's basically added frustration and added stress. All this has not only been a financial concern, but it's an emotional, it's an a mental, it's a physical burden, with not only the concerns of operating and maintaining everything up to date and staying within the guidelines, keeping people employed, marketing to try to maintain or get new people, new faces. But it's very cumbersome in that you're operating on exhaustion because, like I said, you just added 3 hours of to your work. You have to be able to set up before. So if I normally open at 12 noon, now I have to be there at 10 a.m. so that I can set up and be ready to open my doors at 12 noon. And that includes not only the setup outside, but inside. You have to sanitize. You have to make all these products available so that your customers can see that you're complying and they can feel safe and know that they can count on your place to follow the rules, if you will. And it's extremely tiresome. And but you believe in the industry. You have hope that people will come support, and and I have my faith, as I said. So we're working on always staying with the glass half full.
And that is definitely a powerful message there, just being able to hold on to hope even when, everything is uncertain. One other thing that I wanted to ask about like being in the restaurant was like like wearing the mask and like social distancing guidelines. Like have you had any issues with like customers not adhering, walking in with a mask, wanting to eat, or like they don't want to stay 6 feet away from people? Like, have
Yes.
you had any of those issues?
Yes, aside from all the stresses of managing the operation on a daily basis with making sure that food is coming out on a timely basis and things like that, you also now have to have on the additional hat of being the vigilant police, if you will. You're constantly telling people, "I'm so sorry. If you stand up, you have to wear your mask. If you come inside, if you're sitting outside, you're welcome to use the restroom, but you have to put on the mask. You cannot hang out outside and stand holding a beer or an alcoholic beverage in your hand on the sidewalk and talking and say hi to a friend. You can only consume when you're sitting down at the table. You have to constantly wear the mask, even if you're going to go into the restroom. So you're always, being as polite as possible, but there are so many rules to follow. With the stay within 6 feet, you can't have more than 10 people at a service at the same time. You can't book a party for more than 25 max of 50 people. You can't have them congregate. So you're constantly, people forget, they don't do it intentionally. People are starving for socialization. And when they get to go out and they see their friends, especially in a community place like mine, that, I'm very much known as a cheers place, where everyone knows your name kind of thing. So everyone is happy to see each other and their inclination is to say hi and go up to them, but they forget, or if I get up from the table, I have to put on the mask. I can't go over there without putting on the mask. I have to wait here until they take my temperature. I have to fill out this form before I go inside. And you're constantly having to play vigilance with all those details.
And have you ever like encountered anyone who hasn't done these things sort of out of more of a malice rather than just like, oh, I've just got to run to the bathroom. Oh, I forgot to put my mask back on, type of thing.
Right. Not out of malice, but people get frustrated. And, they don't want to be rude, but they become defiant. Oh, it's only for a minute. I'm only going to stand up, for 2 seconds. I'm going for a smoke. I'll be right back. Or, the bathroom is right there. And, and you can't bend the rules. I didn't make them. I just have to follow them. And, I'm constantly having to justify, explain, reiterate, repeat what the rules are. And, people sometimes get annoyed. And I have had to turn away business with people that are not believers in using masks. And so they don't want to follow the rules. And, I can't risk what could very well be a $10,000 fine because I've gotten emails that there's no leniency, there's no exceptions, no excuses that, if a restaurant is found to be violating the rules, it could very well be an automatic $10,000 fine per offense. And so I've had to turn away business because I can't afford to be nice and because I need their business break the rules. I can't do it. So I've had to say no to customers and excuse them from the premises.
Right, and having that like big fine must be like a sword hanging over your head. Just like you have to make sure everything is perfect.
Right.
I guess what I'd want to know is then, do you know how would they know if you sort of had an offense? Would it be like they found a picture of your restaurant and they see that someone's not wearing their mask, or is it like they have someone routinely inspect the place? Just sort of how could they know? How could they like threaten such a big fine and know that information?
Well, I mean, they have, I did also get an email that, they have increased the task force of inspectors. So now there are many more inspectors throughout the city in the 5 boroughs, and they're very vigilant, rightly so. We do want to eradicate this illness. And they come in on a routine basis, unannounced, to spot check your place. And, they will look at, the 6 feet distance, if the employees are wearing the mask, customers, any violation, if you're not enforcing the rules. You're also required to keep a log of not only your employees' daily temperature, but like I said, of anyone that comes in to dine, you have to keep a log of their information. At least one person per party has to provide their contact information. Hopefully, not, but in case of any illness, then they have to be traceable and notified. So they can come in and they can ask, let me see your log, let me see, who's been here today. And as well, most establishments, restaurants for also for safety are encouraged to have cameras, indoor and outdoor cameras. And I do have cameras, and they can request to look at your footage. They can check from 2 weeks back, a month back, yesterday, this afternoon, and so on. And, there's various ways that they can monitor it. And so, you just have to be vigilant to always follow the rules so that you don't have anything to worry about. But it's just more to the list.
And just to clarify, did you have some of these cameras before, or did you also buy like new cameras for the outdoor seating?
No, I've always had cameras. I've always
Okay.
had cameras. Yes.
Because I could just imagine that, like, you might have the cameras, but then you might need more cameras for like the outdoor seating.
Thank goodness I've always had indoor and outdoor cameras. I have cameras throughout my the property, so they have always been there. And luckily the community, the police in particular, have used my cameras to acquire information for nearby offenses that they've been able to resolve based on my cameras. So, but they've always been there. Luckily, I've had them for everyone's safety, our employees, other patrons, or any crime, any theft or anything like that. But there's a lot of ways that they can check aside from on-site inspections if you're following the rules or not.
Okay. And I guess there has been like one big event that has happened in this month, and it's the election. Has that like affected your business in any way? Like, did you get kind of nervous? Were you thinking about getting the boards? Because I've seen, places, have the boards up and whatnot. How was the election sort of affecting your business and sort of like the what you were thinking about doing for the south of France?
Well, aside from it being nerve-wracking, I mean, you know, we were worried about, how is it going to affect the business? Are they going to cut funding? Are they going to give funding? Are they going to pass new rules? Are there, will there be riots? Am I going to have to board up my place? Do I have to now get added security to avoid, any kind of confrontation with customers debating each other? I mean, it's certainly, thank goodness that nothing has happened, and we're in a very, good community space, and we haven't had anything of that kind. However, that was definitely a concern, but we're glad that things turned out the way that they did.
And I guess this is a good segue for looking towards the future. What do you expect to come? Like, what do you expect for this? What do you expect to see for the future of the south of France? I know you said things are uncertain, but what could you sort of like think of could possibly happen?
Well, like I said, and staying with the glass always full, uh, I am counting on my community. I'm counting on my longstanding supporters, new faces, to say that they are with us. Not only with us, but with all small businesses, of all kinds. I think it's important that people, realize that, the mom and pops is America. That's what it was founded on. And, some things change and some things stay the same. And we hope that people realize that buying local, buying small business, supporting, your neighborhood, venturing out into other nearby neighborhoods, it's always worth it. It comes with many hidden surprises, and we strive to be worthy of that. And so I remain positive in that we'll be able to overcome this. I hope that there'll be new legislation so that we can have another round of maybe PPP, the payment protection plan for employees, the payroll protection plan for employees, because that's already run out. So I'm paying employees from whatever we make, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to have access to more grants, and particularly now in the winter months when we need help to provide things like the heaters, et cetera, to extend outdoor seating. And especially since as of November 1st, when they did not increase the indoor dining to 50%, then we will need help to be able to make people feel comfortable sitting outside, to keep them warm, to make up and balance that other additional seating that we were not granted. But I'm hoping that things will turn around for the better. I believe in New York. I especially love and believe in my Bronxites that we will band, we will support, and I think it's only a matter of time. This cannot last forever. We will overcome. They will find a vaccine. We will end this. We will be united. People continue to educate and believe that it's not, just about the other guy, that it's them. They are the other guy. We are each other's other guy. And it is all incumbent upon us to have a responsibility to take care of our fellow citizens, our fellow Bronxites. And I think we just can't despair, and we have to have faith and hang on a little longer.
And just to wrap this up, what would you like people to know about, the south of France, about managing the restaurant, just anything? What would you like people to know about sort of this whole situation?
Well, I would like people to understand that, you have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. You can't operate on fear. You can't stay enclosed. That if you have the capability of being able to buy a meal for someone else, buy a gift certificate, find places that are following the rules, that are doing the right thing, that need your support and that are worthy and worthwhile. that businesses like mine, speaking for myself, are going the distance to make everyone safe, to keep our staff safe, and that I need help to keep my staff employed. I need help because I have to continue to pay business insurance and business rent, and on only 25% is not enough because these bills still exist. And the bills don't care that you're only operating on 25%. You still have to pay all of this. So I would encourage people to say, let me order these services, let me dine in, let me take out, and not be afraid because, we've overcome so many other things as New Yorkers, and we're strong and we're warriors. And so you have to have faith and you have to help us to fight.
And last but not least, how can people support the South of France? This is like shameless plug moment. I know we've done this before, but
we're here, South of France, 1800 Westchester Avenue, 8231133. And, we have Grubhub and Uber Eats and Seamless and DoorDash and delivery. And we're open till midnight. We're here 7 days a week. I mean, we do everything. We can also deliver platters to families, to events. There's all kinds of things. And we've been here now officially 24 years. This past October. We'll be celebrating on December 9th, which was declared the official day for the South of France in the Bronx. When we had our 20th year anniversary, the Bronx Borough President, Ruben Diaz Jr., gave us a proclamation to declare that December 9th was officially the South of France Day in the Bronx. And we're going to have all kinds of specials that day. But don't wait till then. Support us now. Support all your local small businesses, and please help us to stay here because we're a community place. We're not just about us. We're about helping our place. And don't forget, our motto is, we do it all for you.
It's always a pleasure. It is always a pleasure to talk with you, Ms. Gonzalez, and thank you again for coming and talking and just taking a little bit of your day out just to have a conversation with me. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
And I love the South of France just as much as you. So thank you so much.
I appreciate everyone. Stay well, stay blessed. Happy Veterans Day. We salute you. We got specials for you today if you want to stop by. And God bless you all. Adios y gracias.